What comes to your mind when you think of Route 66? Neon lights? Chrome diners? Maybe it's a family station wagon rolling west toward the promise of something better. Some great adventure. A slice of pure Americana. But when it started, it wasn't like that at all. Before it became the main street of America, Route 66 was an unpaved idea, a political compromise. A road stitched together from county routes and dirt paths, some of them barely navigable. It wasn't built for nostalgia either. It was built for business, and behind it was a man from Tulsa, Oklahoma, with a vision and a whole lot of resistance. So stick with us, travelers, because this is the real story of how America's most iconic highway was born. And we're going to discover it together as we go beyond the exit. In 1925, the federal government had a plan. The goal? A standardized system of numbered highways, connecting cities across state lines and putting an end to the chaos of mismatched signs, private tollways, and disconnected roads. They called it the U.S. Numbered Highway System, and it was going to be revolutionary. But what roads would be included, and which towns would be left behind? That's where a fellow by the name of Cyrus Avery comes in. Avery was a Tulsa businessman with one foot in oil and the other in civic development. He was sharp, stubborn, and saw roads not just as ways to get somewhere, but as a way to build somewhere. Appointed to the Joint Board on Interstate Highways, Avery was one of just 21 members chosen to design the new federal system. Most of the planners favored straight east-west corridors, routes like the eventual US 80 or US 30, connecting coastal cities through large population centers. But Avery saw something different. He proposed a bold diagonal route, starting in Chicago, cutting through St. Louis, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Amarillo, and down through Albuquerque and Flagstaff before finally reaching Los Angeles. Why the diagonal? Because Avery knew the country wasn't just its coasts, it was the heartland, and it needed a road that didn't just bypass the middle, but elevated it. He argued that this route would link the industrial Midwest with the agricultural Southwest, unlocking economic development in dozens of underserved towns and creating a commercial corridor for freight, oil, and tourism alike. But not everyone agreed with him. Eastern states, specifically Kentucky and Virginia, lobbied hard for a southern route to get the prized designation of U.S. Route 60. Now, I suppose there are some questions on why they weren't fighting over the number 66, but you had to remember that numbers that didn't end in a 0, 1, or 5 were not considered as important a route in the U.S. system. We've got a short video that explains the numbering system that was derived from the Planning Commission, and we'll drop it at the end of the video for you. They feared Avery's diagonal would drain traffic and money away from their own highways, and the fight would get heated. The whole thing came to a head in April 1926 when the American Association of State Highway Officials held a final round of negotiations. That's when a compromise was reached. The Virginia-Kentucky corridor would get Route 60. To Avery, it felt like second place. He'd fought hard for Route 60, and he'd lost. But that disappointment didn't last long, because if Avery couldn't have the number he wanted, he'd make the new one famous. The compromise called for Avery's route to be named US 62, something he wasn't very thrilled about. As he inquired to what numbers were left, he found out that US 66 was available. Believing this was a much easier number to say and remember, he sent a note requesting that this be the designation for his new highway. They wholeheartedly agreed, and Avery didn't waste any time. To begin with, he started the U.S. Route 66 Association in 1927, headquartered in Tulsa. Their mission was clear: get the road paved from end to end and get it into people's heads. They published brochures, promoted it as the shortest all-weather route to the Southwest, and pushed for federal and state funding. Avery gave speeches. He got reporters involved. He turned Route 66 into something more than a line on a map. It became an identity, and it worked. Now, in spite of all the promotion, when Route 66 was commissioned on November 11, 1926, it was not a brand new road. It was a patchwork. Avery's diagonal corridor was made by linking together existing state and county roads. Some of them were paved, but many were not. In Illinois, Route 66 piggybacked off a stretch of concrete road already part of Illinois State Route 4. paved with Portland cement and reinforced with steel rebar. But once you crossed into Missouri and moved southwest, the road quality varied wildly. Most of those were developed from the old Ozark Trail, where the majority of the maintenance of that road was left to the ones that used it. Some sections were macadam, which is a gravel road coated with oil or tar. Others were nothing more than graded dirt tracks, prone to washing out or turning to dust. In Oklahoma, red clay roads were common. Arizona and New Mexico had long stretches of unimproved dirt or gravel winding through the mesas and deserts. Route 66 might have had a number, but in many places it was still just a hopeful line on a map. Now, construction and improvement fell largely to the states, with the help of the federal government for matching funds. Real progress came, though, during the Great Depression, when federal relief programs poured manpower into public works. The WPA, or the Works Progress Administration, and the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps, were deployed to improve and pave huge stretches of the highway. Some roads were built by machinery, others by hands. Often prison labor was used. And in the Southwest, Navajo and Mexican-American laborers did much of the work under very harsh conditions. It wasn't until 1938 that every last mile of Route 66 was paved from end to end. Granted, old Route 66 wasn't the first coast-to-coast highway, but it was the first major U.S. road to be fully paved over such a long distance. And for the people who relied on it, that was enough. By the late 1930s, Route 66 was more than just a highway. It was a lifeline. During the Dust Bowl years, thousands of families from Oklahoma, Texas, even Arkansas, piled into beat-up trucks and sedans, heading west toward California's Central Valley, looking for work and stability. John Steinbeck called it the Mother Road in his novel, The Grapes of Wrath. But even as the highway served migrants and workers, it was also transforming life along the way. Route 66 cut through hundreds of small towns, many of which had never seen regular travelers before. And with that came opportunity. By the late 1930s, roadside businesses had begun popping up. Places like auto camps and grease rack garages, hand-painted diners, and tourist courts with creaky beds and screen doors that slammed. And some entrepreneurs got a little more creative than others. In Two Guns, Arizona, a canyon attraction featured a so-called Apache death cave, a desert zoo, and costume tours. In Foyle, Oklahoma, Ed Galloway was building what would become the world's largest totem pole by hand. The U-Drop Inn in Shamrock, Texas opened in 1936, a neon-lit Art Deco structure that looked like it belonged in a city, not in the middle of the Texas Panhandle. Most of these weren't polished theme parks. They were homegrown, handmade, just folks trying to make a living as the cars kept rolling past. So even before the neon glow and nostalgia, Route 66 had already started becoming something more than a road. It gave small towns a reason to believe they still mattered. By 1938, Route 66 was fully paved. From Chicago to Los Angeles, there was no more dirt and no more detours. The road was finally whole, and it wasn't built by machines alone. It was built by out-of-work farmers, by laborers on federal relief crews, by prisoners laying culverts in the heat. They didn't set out to build something iconic. They just needed the work. And the people who used it weren't chasing freedom or open skies or a vacation adventure. They were chasing jobs, safety, and a fresh start. Sometimes they didn't even know what was ahead, only that they couldn't stay where they were. And Cyrus Avery, well, he didn't get the number he wanted, but he did get the road built. And for him, that was enough. So long before the postcards and neon signs, Route 66 was a working road for working people. It didn't become a legend because of how it looked. It became one because of what it did. It got people in the small towns of America where they needed to go. If this is your first time really digging into how Route 66 became a highway, well, I want to thank you for coming along on this video. If you're getting value out of this video, we'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We've got a lot more to this story, and in our next episode, we're going to pick up right where we left off. The world at the edge of war, and Route 66 about to see a boom that it never expected, one that would change it all over again. If you're thinking about taking a Route 66 trip, I'm going to recommend to you something that I consider essential equipment, and that's the Route 66 Easy Guide by Jerry McClanahan. It's what we keep in the truck when we're going along because it has turn-by-turn directions, talks about every route and alignment, including abandoned ones that you won't find anywhere else. We've taken the route over 12 times, and we still reference it. I'll leave a link in the description, and you can choose to go to it if you'd like. Once again, I'd like to thank you for watching, and God bless.